Morning Coffee with Mel is a production of the Epic with Mel Marketing Group. Copyright 2021, all rights reserved.
Welcome to the Morning Coffee with Mel on Mix LR Radio. I'm Mel, and this is Bob.
Hi.
And Morning Coffee with Mel is an audio and video podcast for foodies and more. Now with a weekly radio show every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. right here on Mix LR. We'll talk about food recipes, cooking techniques, appliances. We'll interview chefs, explore venues, try new foods, and discuss the food industry. Talk about sustainability like farm to table. I swear I'll get my speech right this morning. Farm to table operations, new trends in technology, food safety and security, and so much more. And we'll share stories, talk about your struggles with food, and serve it all up with a side of life. Right here on Morning Coffee with Mel. So let's get started. Today, I would like to speak to you all about the health differences in some of the foods that you're buying in the store and how easy, simple they are to make at home. And it's very simple ingredients compared to what's in the store that you buy. So let's start off with a simple loaf of bread, right? You go to the store, pick up a loaf of bread, no big deal, tastes good. Let me tell you what's in that loaf of bread. So this is the Nature's Own white wheat, which actually I like white wheat pretty well. I mean, it does have a good taste to it. It's nice and soft. It has unbleached enriched flour, which unbleached is really good actually. Wheat flour, malted barley flour, niacin, reduced iron, thiamine, mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid, water, sugar, wheat gluten, cellulose. That's the first one that I really don't like to see an ingredient of, cellulose. Yeast contains 2% or less of each of the following: calcium sulfate, salt, cultured wheat flour, soybean oil, calcium carbonate, guar gum. Some of these words I'm probably not going to pronounce right because I've never seen them, never heard of them, and I'm kind of afraid to look up what they are. Dough conditioners, which contains one or more of the following: monoglycerides, enzymes, absorbic acid, vinegar, monocalcium phosphate, sodium citrate, niacin, iron, which is ferrous sulfate, it says, thiamine, hydrochloride, riboflavin, soy lecithin, folic acid, nitomycin, and that's to retard the spoilage. That's a lot of ingredients that's going into your bread and, of course, going into your body. Now, I actually do make a lot of things from scratch at home. I know a lot of you don't like to cook or bake out there, but there are some recipes that are really simple that you could be making at home that's so much better for you and taste even better than what you buy in the store. Here's an example with that bread. I have a no-knead sandwich bread. So, when you think of making bread, you think, oh my gosh, you got to spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes kneading it on the counter and flour and pushing it, and you're exhausted after you're done. This is a no-knead sandwich bread, and it tastes delicious. It actually makes 2 loaves. So I understand that when you make homemade bread, there's no preservatives in it. So it's not going to last 2 weeks like a loaf of bread that you buy in the store will. Which actually, to me, to think of bread lasting 2 weeks is a little scary. It shouldn't last that long, but there's so many preservatives in the bread that you buy in the store. That's why it lasts so long. And I know you think that's a great thing, but really, in reality, what you're putting in your body to make that bread last is not a good thing. So if you wanted to make this no-knead sandwich bread, you could cut it in half, the recipe, to make 1 loaf so that you don't have to worry about it spoiling. But let me just tell you, for 2 loaves of a regular loaf pan bread, you would use 6 cups of all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of sea salt, a tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of butter melted, 3 cups of water, warmed to temperature of 110, and 2¼ teaspoons of dry yeast. That's it. And when you mix it together, according to the directions, which is very simple, you add the water to the melted butter. At first, you mix your dry ingredients. So all your dry ingredients you mix. And then you add your water to the melted butter, and you mix it in with the flour mixture. Once you mix it all together and they form a wet, sticky dough, you cover the dough, place it in a warm place, and let it rise for 1½ hours or until it's double in size. You divide the dough into the 2 packs. Handling the dough is best done with a well-greased hands. Even out the dough into the corners of the pans. Preheat your oven to 375. You let it rise again for about 40 minutes until the dough is even with the rim of the loaf pan. In a warm kitchen, this rise can take less than 40 minutes. So you just kind of keep an eye on it and see once it gets to the rim of the pan, that's when you know it's ready to go in the oven. So you bake it for 40 minutes until the top crust is golden brown. You place the pans on a cooling rack and you brush them with butter. It's so easy. And this bread is absolutely delicious. And like I said, if you just wanted to make one loaf because you don't want it to spoil, easy peasy. Just cut the recipe in half. But it's so much better for you to make something so simple like that at home without putting all of those added ingredients into your body that are preservatives. And it's just when you sit back and think of what those ingredients could be doing once you eat them. I mean, it's just, it can be a little scary to me. Yes. Here's another one, vanilla frosting. Everybody loves a cake. You go to the store, you buy the cake mix, which I'm not even going to get into the cake mix, but the vanilla frosting. I know that cakes can be a little tedious to make at home. I personally, when I want a cake, I will make it at home, but I understand, you know, there's a lot of people that don't like to bake out there, but the frosting, you go and buy a can of Pillsbury vanilla frosting. Let's just say, for instance, that frosting is going to have partially hydrated soybean and cottonseed oils, water, maltitol syrup, isomalt, maltodextrin, polydextrose, sorbitol, cellulose, there it is again, cellulose, contains 2% of less of modified cornstarch, citrus fiber, salt, artificial coloring, including yellow number 5 and red number 40, artificial and natural flavor, which you don't even know what the artificial flavor is, mono and diglycerides, polysorbate 60, guar gum, potassium sorbate, which is a preservative, sucralose, and which is a non-nutritive sweetener. It says it right there, non-nutritive. So it's not good for you. It's not something nutritious that you're putting in your body. Soy lecithin, citric acid, and contains soybean ingredients. It's just kind of giving you a warning. Now here we go. You're at home. You've got butter. You've got salt. Powdered sugar. Go pick it up if you don't have it. And 3 tablespoons of either milk or heavy cream. And vanilla extract. Everybody's got vanilla extract in their cabinet. So you beat the butter with an electric mixer until it's creamy. You sprinkle salt over the butter and stir again to combine. Gradually add a ½ cup at a time the powdered sugar, waiting until it's completely mixed, each ½ cup. And then with a mixture on medium-low speed, you add the heavy cream, a tablespoon at a time. Once the ingredients are well incorporated, gradually increase the speed to high and beat for about 30 seconds and add the vanilla. That is it. And it's very simple ingredients. It doesn't have all those additives, all those preservatives. And it's so easy to make at home. And let me tell you, homemade frosting is absolutely amazing tasting. My favorite to make at home actually is a cream cheese frosting.
That's the best.
Yes. And the only difference really than this is that you would add a block of cream cheese. I mean, you can look up a recipe anywhere on Google. You'll find a million of them. for a simple cream cheese frosting. And I make that pretty much every time I make anything that needs to be frosted. It's just wonderful. And you're not putting all those additives into your body. Now, for those of you who who do like to bake sometimes or fry things, you might pick up Crisco. Crisco is probably the most popular oil that you would pick up to fry something in or add to your baked ingredients. So Crisco has soybean oil, fully hydrogenated palm oil, partially hydrogenated palm and soybean oils, mono and diglycerides, THBQ, and citric acid. To me, maybe that's not a ton of ingredients that go in that, but I would have to look them up. But I'm going to guess that those ingredients are not good. I could be wrong, but I'm going to guess those ingredients are not good. I can look them up and discuss them on another show, but you can look them up and see for yourself. Most likely they're not good. I love to use lard. Now, I'm not going to lie, I have used butter flavored Crisco before, but lard is really, to me, the way to go. So when I pick up lard, it's usually Armour brand, or it can be Goya sometimes. But the basic ingredients for lard is lard, PHA, which is a preservative, propyl gallate, and citric acid. And that's it. I don't know if the propyl gallate is good or the citric acid. Citric acid is in so many things, I can't imagine that it's harmful. Of course, it could be. I'd have to look it up again. I haven't done all of my research like I should, but this show would probably be 3 hours long if I had to talk to you about each ingredient that's not good for you in things you buy at the store. The thing is, though, while I was looking at this, I did find a recipe to make lard at home. And I'm actually going to see if I can contact a local butcher and find out how much he would charge for the fat that's on the back of the hog or the back of the pig. It's a big slab and it's all fat, all of it. I don't know that butchers would use that when they go to butcher a hog. They probably, I would think, just throw that out. I don't know if anybody, unless they're making lard, that would want solid fat off of a hog. Maybe if they're making pork rinds, maybe they would.
It sounds good.
Yeah, yeah, you love pork rinds. But I'm going to contact the local butcher and find out if it's fairly cheap to buy it. I did find a recipe, and basically you just cut up that big slab of fat that's on the back of the hog into cubes. You put just a touch of water in the bottom of a pan. You put all your cubes in the pan, and you let it cook on medium-low. The lower the better, until the fat starts to melt out of that fat, actually. So the lard will start to melt out of that fat. You just keep doing that. You'll take the lard out, cook it some more, take the lard out, until you have a good size. From what I understand on the internet, a good size of the fat back will give you probably about a quart of lard. And a quart of lard will actually last me for quite some time. So that has none of the added ingredients. None of them. It's just the fat of the pig. That's it.
It's pure.
Yes, it is. It's exactly. It's very pure, and it's just there's nothing else in it, and that's what I like to hear, is that there's nothing else in it. The biggest thing I like to hear is that it actually tastes good. I've tried forever. I mean, I definitely have a weight issue, and I've tried forever to find healthy foods that taste good, and it's very difficult, very, very difficult to find healthy foods that taste good. But I'm definitely going to see if I can try this homemade lard recipe. I'll let you guys know how it goes. If I can find the ingredients to do that, or I find a butcher that's willing to sell it for a reasonable price. If not, I'll probably just have to keep buying it in the tub. But it has far less ingredients than the Crisco does. So here's another one. Everybody loves a salad. We all love a salad. At least most of us love a salad. One of my favorite dressings is a zesty Italian, or an Italian dressing. To me, it just has a really good taste. So when you go and buy the Kraft Zesty Italian, let me tell you what's in it. Vinegar, water, a blend of vegetable oils, soybean oil, canola oil, sugar, salt, garlic, contains less than 2% of red bell pepper, onions, xanthan gum, spice, oleo resin paprika for color, potassium sorbate, and calcium disodium EDTA to protect flavor.
Sounds delicious.
Oh, yeah. You just listen to that and you think, what in the world is that stuff? But let me tell you again, at home, you can make an Italian dressing that would taste much better. You know what's going in it. And it takes you 5 minutes to throw it together. So this Italian dressing, you would put 3/4 cup of olive oil, which is a very good oil for you, a 1/4 cup of red or white wine vinegar, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of dried oregano, a teaspoon of dried basil, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, and a teaspoon of lemon juice. And that's it. And really, when you make it at home, you can throw whatever you want in it. You could throw any added seasonings you want in it that you think might taste good. Whatever you want. I mean, I'm very creative when I cook at home or bake at home. I never, 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 ever go exactly off of a recipe that I have. Anything in a book, I've got a whole bookshelf, 6 shelves full of cookbooks, and never ever one of those recipes that I've made have I gone exactly off the recipe. You can be very creative. You can put what you want on it. You can take what you want out of the recipe. I love cooking and baking. That's just my thing. And I know, like I said, a lot of you don't. That's fine. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just a matter of preference. But as far as, what you're buying in the store, there are a lot of things. I mean, I'm just tipping on the edge of the iceberg here of things that you could be making at home that are so much better for you, so much better tasting, and so simple to make. I can completely agree. Especially with you busy moms out there or dads out there, your schedules don't allow for a lot of time of cooking and baking and prep. These are very, very simple recipes that you could be making at home that takes no time. I mean, really, they're very quick, very simple. If you want to hear about more of these recipes made at home, please reach out to us. You can leave us a voicemail or text us at 865-383-8347. I'll be happy to discuss more recipes that you can make very quick, very simple at home. And then I'm going to give you one last one. A lot of people, I mean, I haven't looked up the percentage, but I know a ton of people use margarine at home. You've got that big thing of Country Crock in your fridge, or the small thing of Country Crock, or Blue Bonnet, or I can't believe this is not butter, or whatever kind of butter substitute you have. And let me just tell you, one of the ones that I picked up was the Country Crock. I looked at the ingredients: purified water, soybean oil, palm kernel and palm oil, salt, lecithin, which is soy. It's a soy lecithin, put it that way. Vinegar, natural flavors, vitamin A, palmitate, beta carotene for color, and vitamin D3. If you would, and I know it's inexpensive. I know that margarine is very inexpensive. When I was in my wee younger years, probably 19, 20, I bought margarine. I thought it was the best thing ever because it had a good taste and it was cheap. And I loved it. But then I started looking at the ingredients and I thought, butter's a lot more expensive, but let me tell you what's in butter. This is a Breakstones butter that I got off the internet. So the salted butter has cream and salt. That's it. Cream and salt. That's all they use to make this. The unsalted has cream and natural flavor. So I'm not sure exactly what the natural flavor is, but cream and natural flavor. That's it. 2 ingredients in each of these. I've actually made butter at home, which is another thing that's so simple to do. If you go out and buy heavy whipping cream, They come in small containers of a pint, or you can buy a quart. You bring it home. If you have a blender or you have a food processor, you just pour it in there and turn it on, and you'll let it run until you'll start to see part of that solidify. Once you see it solidify really good, you're going to turn it off. You'll still have some liquid in there, which is actually considered buttermilk, believe it or not. But you'll take your solid out. You'll mix what salt you want in it to taste, and cover it up and put it in the fridge. You have butter. That's it. Now, one extra step, which I'm sorry I did forget, is you're going to squeeze it out. So if you want to put gloves on, you can. I usually don't. I just make sure my hands are washed. But you squeeze through it, almost like you have a thing of Play-Doh. Squeeze through it. That's going to get all that extra liquid out. So you squeeze through it. Then you salt it like you want. Don't put salt in it while it's in the mixer. That's going to mess up the molecules, or whatever you want to call it, that's going to make it solidify. You don't want to add that salt until it's done. Then you sprinkle salt in it to taste. Throw it in the fridge and you've got fresh butter. It's that easy. There is nothing to it, absolutely nothing to it. And it's so much better for your family to feed them that butter instead of the margarines. And I know that there's sprays out there that a lot of people use. I really didn't look up the ingredients of that. I've actually tried the sprays when they were first came out, but I'm sure that they're not good for you. But butter is really, a lot of people say, oh, butter, high in fat. But look at what's in that margarine. Butter is just the all-natural way to go. It really is. It's the all-natural way to go. And for simplicity, to have natural food at home, I mean, to me, there's no other way to go. And like I said, if you want to see more of this, want to hear about more of this, please let us know. I'm happy to share. And I think for my portion of the show, that's going to be it. And then I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Bob here.
Well, I'm going to drag you back in because we have to just address yesterday and our video podcast at Crockett's Breakfast Camp up in Gatlinburg was absolutely amazing.
Yep.
A huge thank you to Executive Chef Aaron Ward up there for hosting us, and it was just absolutely amazing. Paula, also our server, was fantastic. Just an amazing woman and amazing server, and it was just a great experience.
And let me tell you, the amount of food.
Yes, it was
that
crazy.
we had gone there twice before we actually went yesterday. Now, yesterday, Chef Aaron just brought us out a huge variety of some of the foods that they serve there. And of course, since that was only our third trip there, many of it we had not tried. And I'm telling you, every bite, I could tell was from scratch. And I know it's from scratch when I talked to Chef Aaron in the interview yesterday. But the first visit that we went and we ordered breakfast, I took a bite and I looked at Bob and I said, this food is from scratch. I mean, if you are somebody who...
You can really tell.
Yes, when you love to cook from scratch and then you go out and you have one of these biscuits that are out of many of these, the majority of restaurants, I'll just say it, the majority of restaurants, after you've baked biscuits at home from scratch, buttermilk biscuits, and you bite into one of these biscuits that are served at most restaurants, you immediately can tell it is not from scratch. It's from a mix. And I hate it. I just hate it because you're paying a good price when you go out to dinner or when you go out to lunch or when you go out to breakfast. We don't go out to eat very often. And I think the biggest reason is because my food that I cook at home from scratch, you cannot get that taste anywhere out. Well, let me tell you, at Crockett's, you get that taste.
You sure do.
When you go out there. And it's probably the first place that I can say everything we had was amazing and you could tell was from scratch. Everything. I cannot recommend that restaurant a lot. And let me tell you, they brought us out this giant cinnamon roll. It was
ridiculous.
I mean, it's probably close to a half a pound. It's just huge. And we couldn't have another bite. There's no way we could take another bite. So we put it in a box, brought it home. This morning before the show, I heated it up and split it between the two of us, put melted butter on mine, And oh, it was just heaven in a dish. It really was. It was just as good as if it were fresh. Absolutely. I cannot recommend Crockett's Breakfast Camp a lot. And in the future, we are going to be doing podcasts from their other sister restaurants as well. And I can promise you, without a doubt in my mind, it'll be just as good
It sure
because,
will.
yes, after speaking to Chef Aaron, all of their restaurants are from scratch. And that's my thing. I'm willing to pay that price to go out to a place that I know that they've taken the time for quality food. I'm willing to pay that price. So Crockett's and their sister restaurants, I can tell you without even going to the other restaurants, those are the places to go if you're looking for a high quality, from scratch everything food. Definitely. So I think we have shouted out to them really well, and we're going to hand it over to Mr. Bob so he can start on his portion of the show.
So, I was going to have a discussion today about food security, since I have an extensive background in security, so for food safety and food security. But in looking at a few things in show preparation, I decided to talk about something a little different: food insecurity. What is food insecurity? So, we're talking about hunger, basically. We're talking about families not having enough food to eat, and there are over 15 million households in America that don't have enough food to feed their families, especially through last year with the pandemic and all that mess that went on. And it's still ongoing. 11.2 million kids in the U.S. living in hunger right now. I don't know how that's even possible with the amount of food that we have in this country, the excess, the things that are thrown away. Kids that go to school can often get free lunches, free breakfasts, but what happens to them in the summertime when there's no school, or when they're on virtual learning like they are right now, and those households don't have any food? It's really hard. So there's a lot of surplus produce in America because a lot of it is thrown away. I'm not sure if you're aware, but about 40% of the produce that's sold in grocery stores, 40% of what they receive, they throw in the dumpster out back before it ever makes it to a shelf.
That's awful.
Because it doesn't look right. It's not perfect. It's not, tomatoes aren't perfectly red. They're not perfectly round. They have some green spots on them. They might be bruised. Same goes for other produces too, and all that gets thrown away. It's really tragic if you think about it. You have to wonder how access to food can be so difficult in a country as rich as the United States. It's really just terrifying. There's not a food shortage, there's a food access shortage, I guess, is the way to put it. And there are some organizations like Food Forward, they're based in California, that are fighting to get these foods from these stores and get them out to the people that really need them. That organization salvages good food that would be thrown away otherwise. Food insecurity is such a problem, even though we have tons of it around. We work to ensure that all that produce that would normally get discarded gets sent out to people,
That would
which
be
I think is
awesome.
really nice.
That would be awesome.
It's incredible that Food Forward is rescuing that produce, but it's just going to waste. Why is it going to waste in the first place? It makes no sense. So when you look at the food system as it exists, on a national scale in the United States, it's a massive industry. It really is. And like any other industry, there are a kind set of standards for quality, that those standards of quality aren't necessarily based on actual quality. It's like I was saying, it's about how it looks and perception, because people won't buy it if it doesn't look perfect. And there are some other food suppliers out there. What was that one? The boxed foods, ugly produce.
Misfits.
Misfits.
They're Misfits.
That's right, Misfits. That's basically scratch and dent produce and vegetables. So it's a way to get it out there and not waste it. And we're just wasting so much food. It's ridiculous. We throw away tons and tons of perfectly good, nutritious food, all because of cosmetic reasons. There's no reason for it. It's just really a shame.
And Misfits is supposed to save you up to 40% on your produce bill. And they also have other foods. If you go to their website, you can see it's not just produce, but they save you a pretty good amount, what you would compare to the store prices for sure.
Yeah, it's really good. And why do grocery stores and chains do this? Because dumping it is simply more affordable. If you're a grocer, you make more money just throwing it away.
Write-offs.
Yeah, even though it's perfectly edible. To transport it and store it and put it out on the shelf and have it sit there because nobody will buy it is just, it's just too much work. So it's easier to throw it away and more cost effective for them. And it's just a shame.
Should be easier to give it away.
It really should be. And why don't they? Why do they have to throw it away?
That's right.
I realize they're in business to make money, but if you're going to throw it away and we have children starving on the street, why are we doing this?
That's right.
We see nationally the price of whole uncut fresh produce often is more than a family can afford, no matter what. French fries are 99 cents for a large French fry, and a tiny salad is $5.
That's right. Yeah.
It's just horrible. And that's one of the barriers to people getting this food, because they just can't afford it anymore. It's been priced completely out of range of most everybody.
And the thing that always amazed me with foods and produce in general is that you take a potato, okay, a potato is cheap, and then they go through the process and the hiring of the people that it takes to turn that potato into French fries. From the actual potato through the factory where it gets turned into cut fries, where it goes to the restaurants, and then they have the people that they've hired for X amount of dollars per hour who fry it up, who, serve it to you, and you're paying 99 cents for, even if it, let's just say for a large fry is $3, okay, which is a pretty good size fry, $3, okay, that you're paying much more, much more than if you were to just buy that potato. It's just, why don't you just, I don't know. I guess it's just amazing to me that they charge so much, whereas the produce, they have workers who pick the produce from the gardens, okay, but what process does it go to or go through between being pulled from those fields? It may or may not be washed. I know some produce you buy in the store, it says wash before use. So how much does it go through? I know they spray it with chemicals, which I think is horrible, horrible, horrible. But it's not as much of a process to me or cost as it is to get that fast food from where it goes to the counter where they serve it.
That's right.
So why is produce or salads so much more expensive? It's always amazed me to eat healthier cost so much more.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It really is. And a lot of times, we talk about food insecurity and hunger together like it's the same thing, but really it's different. Hunger is something everyone's experienced. You don't eat for some reason because you're just too busy. That's hunger. Food insecurity is a condition that means you're lacking dependable access to food. For active, healthy living. Sometimes it could look like a family of four where they have food mostly throughout the month, and then the last week or so they're skipping meals, or the parents are foregoing meals in order to make sure the kids are fed. It could look like a student and kids coming home and not knowing where their next meal will come from, which is like I was talking about the school systems. We have plenty of food and we have child nutrition programs. The problem is not enough kids are able to access them. There's free and reduced lunch programs, after school meals, even summer meals, yet there are about 3 million kids who need healthy breakfasts at school and aren't getting one because they don't fit into the program, and yet their parents don't have enough money to feed them. So your school might serve breakfast around the same time as the bus schedule also. So if a child that doesn't have transportation with parents, dropping them off at school, they utilize the bus. Well, if the bus drops them off right before the bell rings, sorry about that problem there. Just one second. I think we're back on. Totally lost my train of thought. Sorry.
You said if the school bus drops them off,
Right as the bell rings, then the student's not going to have access to the meal. They don't have time to go grab that meal. Sometimes the meal's served in the cafeteria before school. The child doesn't get there in time. It could be the cafeteria is on a completely different place than where the carpool lane is. It's just too far from where the buses drop off. And so the child seen eating breakfast in the cafeteria, they're singled out or stigmatized as a poor kid who needs help. And that's something we don't want to have happening. It's just terrible. It's tragic.
It is.
So that's one of the barriers to kids getting food, even when it is available.
I can remember as a single parent, when my kids were little, of course they're grown now. My son's 20, or he's going to be 29 shortly, and my daughter's 32. But I can remember, and this was, of course, years ago, back then, free school lunches weren't as accessible, or free breakfast, because they went by your income. So as a single mom, I had been at my job for quite some time. So I won't say I made good money. I made more than a lot of people made, but not enough to support two kids. I can tell you that. There were days when our electric got cut off. I'm not going to say it happened a lot, but it did. We'd come home and the electric was off, and it's because I just didn't have the money to pay the bill. But yet I couldn't qualify for a free lunch for my kids or for a free breakfast for my kids. But now it should be a lot more accessible. I don't know what the qualifications are for kids to get. I think free lunches are free, period. I mean, I think that they do offer free, I'm sorry, breakfast. I think they do offer free breakfast for kids. I don't know about lunches. But it's hard, I know, for some parents. It's very, very hard. And we're not by any means blaming the parents for these kids going hungry. We know what it's like to struggle. We know what it's like to have a job that doesn't pay enough. I mean, jobs are scarce. Scarce. And we completely understand that. And we're not putting it on you. I mean, I had days where my kids ate oodles and noodles many times because that's what I could afford. So I completely get that. We're not blaming you. We're blaming the system.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. There's food there to be had. The other problem is that those kids that are getting those meals at school, they're getting the free breakfast in the morning, they get the free lunch. 3 months out of the year, they're not in school. And with the pandemic, even more than that, with virtual learning, they're at home most of the time for months now. A lot of kids have not been to school. I know people whose children haven't been to school since March of last year that have just gone back. So what's happened to them through all this time? It's really tragic. And there are programs out there, but a lot of parents don't know where to find them. They don't know how to reach them. And some of them don't even know that they're available. So there needs to be more education, I think. Probably, I don't know, through the schools, if they send home information about it. I realize some people then get upset because they think that they're being singled out, but that's not the case. We're just trying to get people taken care of. The last statistics that are really available are from 2018. There were 37.2 million people that were living in food insecure households. 9.5 million adults in households with very low food security. 6 million children in food insecure households. Where children and adults didn't have enough food. 540,000 children living in households in which one or more of the children experience very low food security. It disproportionately affects communities of color. It's really tragic. It's a mess.
Yeah, it is.
The affordability and proximity of really good food sources and the barriers around them, that's what food insecurity is about. And those barriers need to come down. Somebody needs to work on this. We need the system to be not broken. And it's just really, really not in a good place. It's hard. I mean, I don't recall ever not having food to eat, but I know sometimes it was slim. It was slim pickings, as the old saying goes, and it wasn't necessarily the best food. It wasn't good produce.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame to know it's all being thrown away. Even places like McDonald's, some of the bigger chain restaurants, they throw away a massive quantity of food every day, and it's just a shame because there are people out there that really need it, and it could really help them a lot.
It's true.
So I guess that's about all I have to say on that. I don't know. I do want to mention, just to backtrack a minute, you can catch that video podcast from Crockett's Breakfast Camp up there in Gatlinburg. It's on our YouTube channel, Epic with Mel, and it will also be available through a link on our website, epicwithmel.com, right after this show. Once I get it on there, I just didn't have opportunity to get it posted yesterday, but it will be there. And there's a link to it on our Facebook page as well, at Morning Coffee with Mel.
Yeah, that's right.
And we can't wait to bring you some more good stuff soon. We're working on a spring food truck frenzy, where we're going to be highlighting, probably, if we can get it done in a day, a dozen food trucks.
Yeah, you figure, I mean, how long does it take you to try foods from a food truck and give your opinion? Not very long, but when you do a dozen of them, that makes a show right there.
And they're in different places, and we have to travel the city.
Yeah, and you have different varieties. When you
Yes.
when you can do, several in one show, you have different varieties. You could have Mexican, barbecue, Thai, Chinese, Italian. I mean, there's endless amounts that you could have. And then, you get a variety of opinions of different foods. And then, of course, the best ones to go to.
And the food truck business, actually, with the pandemic, has done really well, because it's essentially takeout. So you're not in a room with a bunch of people. You can eat outside. There are food truck parks in our area, 3 that I'm aware of, and we're going to be hitting those as well, that have outside seating, places for kids to play. They have cornhole boards and things like that, and games and things to do, and it's really nice. They're really nice settings.
And we definitely have other places, restaurants lined up to go to. The podcast is really picking up. We're really doing well with the podcast. We're really happy with that, because we are, of course, new, but we love it. We love doing this radio show. We love doing the podcast.
It's great getting out and meeting people.
It is. It really is. So it's going very well, and we look forward to all the places this is going to take us to. And eventually, of course, this is no time soon, but eventually we would like to travel to places around the U.S., to restaurants and to just, attractions, actually, just to give reviews, to tell you all about them, so that you can know if you'd be interested in trying these places. Or, if you think you have a vacation planned in, let's say, Oklahoma, you would know, oh, this is the restaurant I need to go to, because I heard Morning Coffee with Mel and they just gave a rave review about this restaurant. I've got to make sure that I hit that restaurant. I mean, things like that to me are important. If you're going to plan a vacation, and you're going to, of course, most people that go on vacation eat out a lot, or eat out the whole time they're on vacation. That's right. And it would be nice to know that every place you go, for your restaurant choices, are going to have awesome food. That, to me, is important, because eating food is part of family time. You sit back and you're around the table and you talk about the day, talk about what you did on vacation that day, and it's nice to have great food to enjoy that with.
And we're definitely going to be seeking out those from scratch restaurants, and even from scratch food trucks, which there are several of.
Yes.
And we're definitely trying to get those on our list to bring to you, so that we can find some healthy alternatives.
Yeah, that would be good. So I think that's it for today's show, and we definitely are humbled and thank all of you who have listened. And we will definitely appreciate you liking our Facebook page, which is Morning Coffee with Mel. And that's going to be the podcast page. You can find all the links for the podcasts that we do. But anything else, you guys, like I said, any other questions, comments, please reach out to us and leave us a voicemail or text us at 865-383-8347. Thanks a lot, guys.
And you can also email us at info@epicwithmel.com. Thank you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.